Today we're going to go over a code upgrade. This is an MS2 code, the release 2.1.0, which is I've been using for quite some time now, and I've now switched over as of sort of summer 2012. I've switched over to release 3.2.1, and there will be another release within the next few months by the looks of it, which I'll switch over to again, but most of you who've bought one of my Mega Squirts will have an MS2 will be a 2.1.0 release. Nothing wrong with the code whatsoever. It's just been updated with a few extra features. Main feature is sequential or semi-sequential injection. If you want to mess about with that, it's also got a few bits and pieces added into it from MS3, and some of you may want to just try it and see how you get on with it. So today, this is what we're going to do to start with. This is the original code, so we're going to save the tune and we're going to call it something so we know what it is. So this is the original tune for 2.1.0, so we're going to call it good 2.1.0, call it whatever you like, but we're just going to save the tune file so we know what it is. Okay, close Tuner Studio down, then we're going to go to, you've got to go then go over to the MS itself, unplug any ignition coils that have been connected to it, and if you can, I'd unplug the injectors as well, the injector plugs. I've never had an injector fire during this process, but you never know. But certainly unplug any ignition coil that's connected to the ECU. I mean, if you've wired them so as that everything's fed through your fuel pump, just pull your fuel pump relay out. But if not, make sure the ignition coils are all unplugged. Download the release that you want to use. So in this case we're going to go 3.2.1. We're going to download the firmware, use the download MS2 firmware bat file. Basically it brings up the screen, which is we're all MS2. If you've got Micro Squirt, then you press 2. If you've got an MS2, which most of you will have, that'll be a 1. COM port, fairly self-explanatory. 1 for the debug. You can have 2 if you want to, but 1's the normal one. We're not loading the extra code for the first time because we're uploading, so no. To make sure the ignition's on, and the laptop's connected to the ECU. It says turn ECU on. Ensure any coils are unplugged. And now it starts loading in the new code. This takes a few minutes. You can go backwards if you want to. If it doesn't work out for yourself, then you can go back to the old one, as long as you've kept the old one, the old code. If not, it's available on the internet, 2.1.0. Occasionally I've had it where the verifying, see here it now says it's verifying, so the code's in now and it's now verifying the code's correct. Occasionally this fails. Succeeded. As long as it says verifying and then it fails after verifying, don't worry about it. I've not had an issue with that. So press enter twice. But you probably have to just turn the ignition off and on again for it to respond. Restart Tuner Studio. Okay, I'm going to just cycle the ignition, turn the ignition off, turn the ignition on. Okay, now it says we've got a signature mismatch. So the project signature is 2.1, but the actual Mega Squirt itself's got 3.2.1 in it. So we need to update Tuner Studio to run the new code. Now what I'd suggest you do is click on work offline, and we're going to create a new project. So as you've got 2 projects, the old one and the new one. Once you're happy with the new one, you can delete the old one if you want to. So we're going to go project, new project. We're going to call this one, I'll call it new 3.2.1, but you can call it whatever you like. I'm not sure if it'll detect it. Let's try it. Depends on how updated the oh, it's found it. Excellent. Okay, so it's found that, so it knows what's connected. If it doesn't find it, I'll show you how to do that as well. So we'll just accept that because that is it anyhow. So it's found that code. So all we could do now is click next if you wanted to. If it doesn't find it, click on other, and then browse, and then find the file that you've downloaded, the code you downloaded. So 3.2.1 in my case, or in this one. And see this ini file, this MS2 extra ini file. Open that or double click on that, and it now selects that file. So basically it matches the release, the code that you've put in 3.2.1. it matches that, the ini file, to that code, so it's within the same directory that you downloaded. Next, then you can select all this sort of thing: wideband, Fahrenheit or Celsius, megasquirt. If you're in microsquirt, then, or a plug and play, you know, one of the DIY plug and play ECUs will do that, but most of you will be at version 3, MS2 version 3 board, and just everything else can be left as it is. Has successfully found it, so configuration, that's what we called it. It's using my RS232 port on COM1, baud rate 115200. I can test the port if I want to. Success. Next. Now we're there. I mean, you can, if you want to, select different dashboards if you want to, and do all sorts of things, but I'm not going to worry about that bit. So finish. Hopefully. Right, there we are. So it's now connected. So the trouble is now we haven't got a tune file in there. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go back to our original tune file, because at the moment it's got the default tune file that is loaded with the code, which won't match your engine at all. So we're going to go back to, we're just going to go up one directory, Tuner Studio. I've got my old file was called my old project was called MS2 old, so whatever you'd called your previous project, and then find the file that we just saved a moment ago, the can't remember what I called it now. Oh, for a memory. Good 2.1.0. Okay, it's going to say that the file is wrong. Do you want to load it anyway? We're going to say yes. So the file we're trying to load is 2.1.0, and the signature is 3.2.1. We're going to load it. A restore point has been generated. Would I like to review the differences? Yep. Well, there's only 4 differences. But what I'm going to show you is where to look before we plug anything in. Injector sequence, and sometimes I've seen this switch on. Make sure it's off. So if you go there again, advanced, injector sequence, make sure that's off. Sequential injection. This you can play about with if you wish to. If you run the 4-cylinder, you want to do semi-sequential, you can try that. But the main thing is make sure that says standard drivers, not additional drivers. Additional drivers, if you had extra fuel injector drivers added. So if you've got the standard 2 injector drivers, which most of you will have, click on standard drives. If you have got the 4 fuel injector drivers, then obviously click that one, but not many of you will have, so burn that. What else have I seen? I'll just go through everything, just making sure that the other thing, trigger angle offset, this must be 0, and now it's greyed out at the moment. So if you set your adjustment and your timing up using this figure, then you shouldn't do that anyhow. But let me find it again. Trigger wheel settings. You should use this angle here. So if I cycle the power on and off, the chances are that'll say there's something wrong with the trigger angle offset. So let me cycle the power off and on again. Okay, yeah, so it's saying there's an error, a configuration error, and it can't tell me exactly what that error is. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go to Communications, Mini Terminal, cycle power again. There you go. Trigger angle, trigger offset rather, must be 0 in EDIS and trigger wheel modes. So what that's saying is it won't run at the minute. See, the engine speed indicator is this high, and the fuel pump relay will be pumping on, off, and the ECU won't respond to anything. So what we've got to do is go into basically what's the saying, in trigger wheel mode, toothed wheel mode, which is 36-1, 60-2 and the like, or in EDIS mode, you mustn't adjust that value there, or it must be 0. So what I suggest you do is go to change back to EDIS, so you can this is no longer grayed out. Now it was -10, so we're going to go 0. Now it'll be okay. Go back to tooth wheel, so now it's grayed out and still 0, but we'll now be 10 degrees out. We'll need to add 10 degrees to our toothed angle number 1. But what I would strongly suggest you do now is you can add 10 degrees to that, but you must check this now with a strobe, because you may find that because you made an adjustment, you may find this needs to be tweaked a little bit in order to get your timing correct. So strongly recommend, if you've messed about with that trigger angle offset in tooth wheel mode, strongly recommend you switch out, check your timing again. If you had 0 in there originally and you've set this up, you set your timing up using this value here, then you haven't got a problem whatsoever, because that's exactly how you should do it. What you may find is that it may be easier to get the engine running with the old code initially, and set that at 0, and then tweak this until you're back to where you should be, then do the code change. But okay, so we're going to burn that. Burn, close, cycle the power. Oh, I don't know, that's not disappeared. Just going to cycle the power again. I don't know why it's not disappeared. There you go. Okay, so we're back running again. So hopefully now all the errors have disappeared. We should be ready to sort of have a go at it, but I would double check everything is as you think it should be. You need to have had a good amount of time on Megasquirt, so you're familiar with a lot of the settings, so you can just go through them, make sure that everything's roughly as it should be. I mean, if you run waste of spark, if all these settings are roughly as they were. But they shouldn't change as long as you're going from 2.1.0 to 3.2.1. If you're going from a really old code to this one, then you may find that you'll need to check all sorts of things, but just go through everything and check everything by hand. Then when you're happy with everything, plug your coils in and try and start it. Before you do that though, you will need to recalibrate your AFR table. So if you've got a wideband lambda, you'll need to go into however you set it up, 0 to 5 volts, 10 to 20 AFR. You'll need to set that up. You'll also need to calibrate your throttle position and your air and coolant temperature sensors as well. So if you've messed about with any of your coolant temperature sensors, if you've got the standard ones, I tend to put in GM and air temp, right to controller. Make sure the GM, if you've got the Mega Squirt ones, I just tend to put them in, just burn them in anyhow. But if you've changed, if you've got your original equipment sensors that are different to the Mega Squirt ones, make sure you reburn them in. And your sensor calibration, if you had a 4-bar, a 400 kPa map sensor, make sure that that's set up properly as well. And as I said, calibrate your throttle position sensor as well. So if we calibrate throttle position, make sure the throttle's off. So throttle off, get current, put your foot all the way down, get current, accept, and then you'll get your throttle position sensor working properly. Then you're up and running. That's your new code in the ECU. You've got 1 or 2 extra features. I can't remember what they are, to be honest. Mainly in sequential injection. There's a few bugs that have been fixed, but nothing major. Nothing. I think they were more specific to certain wheel decoders. I'm just trying to think what else is added. The main thing is the sequential injection. The next one that's coming is going to have a lovely feature in it, for especially for Rover V8 users, or anyone who's struggling with their idle speed. Keep and maintain idle speed when in map mode. It's a lovely feature coming where the idle can, the ignition advance can increase and decrease the engine speed, and I've got that on mine as an MS3, and that's really good. So anyway.